Get ready to listen, learn, and earn CE hours. This podcast features content from an accredited CE activity provided by Calibri Healthcare. Visit elitelearning.com/podcasts for accreditation and disclosure statements and instructions on how you may be able to earn CE credits.
I think it's so important, too, to be that active listener, because there's nothing worse than pretending like you're listening. The phone is really close to you. You keep looking at it, you keep looking at your watch, you're looking out the window, whatever it may be. And then when you say, oh, I'm listening, well, you're really not.
Welcome to our series on collaboration skills. I am Leanna McGuire, your host for this Elite Learning podcast. And with us today is Bridget Sarikas and Kathy Scott, authors of Stupid Gone Viral. Okay, let's talk about collaboration, ladies. Welcome.
Great to be here.
Thank you. All right,
Good to be here.
Why is collaboration important?
Oh, in the workplace, it's especially important, but it's also really important at home and in the community.
Good point.
Our world has gotten so much more complex, and in the workplace, we have to come together and solve complex issues as teams, and there's more teamwork than ever in our workplaces. And so collaboration becomes very, very key. How do we work together, get the best ideas from the team out from the team versus people protecting themselves and get to the best results? So collaboration is very important in today's world.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would agree. And collaboration can be fun, right? I mean, when you isolate yourself and you're not part of a team, I don't know. For me, I just find that to be a bit boring. There's always times when you have to be independent in your work. But boy, when you get to be part of a team, just that creativity gets going, your curiosity is going. I mean, it's just more fun.
Yeah, I would agree. I've heard a lot about the expression psychological safety when it comes to collaboration or working together. Can you talk to us about that? Like, what does it mean or why is it important?
Yeah, boy, think of the world we live in. It doesn't feel the safest anymore.
No.
People are polarized and take up their own, identities, and we don't always feel safe talking to each other or sharing opinions or ideas because we're afraid we're going to offend someone.
Well,
And so psychological safety becomes really important, because if you're going to get your team to really talk to each other and produce new ideas and get creative, they have to feel safe. And so that's what psychological safety is all about. And Dr. Amy Edmondson talks a lot about that. She's an expert in this field, but she talks about how we take a risk calculation. We're always checking the room, thinking, should I speak up or shouldn't I? And if we're not feeling real safe, we opt for the best short-term solution, which is to be quiet. And that often can get in the way of long-term solutions. So it's an important concept.
Yeah, I think it's extraordinarily important. I mean, when you're a part of a team and you're sitting there and you're afraid that someone is going to devalue what you're saying. I mean, how many times you might be sitting next to someone, I know this has happened to me, and they're like, really? Like, yeah, really? So, it makes you feel horrible, and then you start second guessing yourself, right? So that psychological safety, it is really important.
yeah, I can see that. And would you say that's the leader's responsibility, or is it the team itself that needs to create that?
Well, the leader sets the tone.
Nice.
So for sure, if they're not behaving in ways that people can trust them, then other people usually follow suit. So the leader can really shut the room down quickly, but everyone on the team is responsible for creating that climate and for holding each other accountable to it. So, but again, that takes some risk of speaking up if somebody's misbehaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who wants to be the first one to do that, right? So I think those rules of engagement are really important when you set that out at the beginning of whatever discussion you're having so that everyone knows this is an open discussion. All opinions are welcome. We need those opinions because if we don't have the collective thinking and creativity from the group, then something is lost and the project or process is really going to be lacking in something.
Any advice for someone who's in a group and the person leading the team leader or their leader, is not creating a culture of psychological safety? What could someone do in that case?
Well, there's a lot of things that we can do to sort of get people's attention and get things back on track, whether you're the leader or a team member. And one of those, and asking questions is just such a great way to kind of change the conversation up. So, and expansive questions are questions that they're not yes, no. They're asking someone to share more, tell me your opinion, or why are you saying that about this particular issue? So you're trying to get people to keep going with it, which is important. And it's also showing respect to them because when you ask them to keep explaining and make sure we understand their thoughts, you're saying, I value what you have to say. We want to hear it.
Nice.
So that's a great skill we can all practice.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think practice is key there because it doesn't come easy for everyone, but the more you practice it, the better you will get. And I think that whole component of listening is really important when you're asking those questions because then that individual says, not only my value, but gosh, they really are interested in that opinion of mine or in the direction that I think the project needs to go. So it's a win-win, really.
Nice. I like that you talked about asking questions, but another piece of that is actually listening, right? Let's talk about listening.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
How do we enhance our listening skills?
So that's why I was trying to talk over you. I had something to say. Sorry.
Pardon?
It's really important to engage in self-checks. So pay attention to your behaviors. So that my bad. And we can honestly, self-checks are checking in with yourself. How did that meeting go? Or with someone that you trust. That's important. But you've got to get comfortable with the silence. And if we can't get comfortable with silence, then we're just chatting it up, filling in the spaces, and other people don't have a chance to jump in. So getting comfortable with that. I mean, I've even seen a leader write down how many times people talked throughout the meeting versus how many times there was a pause for people to actually think about and listen and give that feedback back to the group. It's kind of fun too. But,
nice. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's so important too to be that active listener because there's nothing worse than pretending like you're listening. The phone is really close to you. You keep looking at it, you keep looking at your watch, you're looking out the window, whatever it may be. And then when you say, oh, I'm listening, well, you're really not. Yeah. And it totally demotivates the individual that you're sitting across from or the team that you're with. So really important to be actively listening.
It contributes.
Yeah, that's
I did
just disrespectful. This is all I got to say. Yeah.
Yeah. How many times are we formulating what we're going to say next and not really paying attention to the end of what their thought was, right? It happens so frequently. So that's great. So practice. I love that you said work with someone you trust who will give you honest feedback because there is always someone who will, right? You don't want to go to the person that's just going to go, oh no, it's fine.
Right. That's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Get a coach.
Yep.
Call a friend.
Yep. Call a friend. Silence is not golden.
Record it.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah. But I mean, listening and hearing, like hearing is one thing, but really actively listening is another. Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
is, and we think we can multitask, and of course, the older we get, the more we realize we can't. But multitasking, as Bridget was saying, you're on your phone, you're on the computer, you're checking your messages. One, it is disrespectful, but two, and they say when you're trying to multitask, it's like driving drunk, literally. You cannot focus on all of those things at one time, even though we tell ourselves we can. So it's important to look people in the eye, have eye contact. I mean, that right there motivates people. I want to hear what you have to say. And then really listen with the willingness to understand something that you might not even agree with, but it's important. Yeah, and I think it's a healthy learning moment for the leader. You actually, through that really concentrated listening component, you might actually learn something and decide, wow, I should have thought about that a long time ago. It's unfortunate that I didn't. So glad that I had this conversation with you. So that active listening is really critical for a leader, especially. Your views, you don't need to know everything, which is good. You most likely don't know everything, so listen to others.
Yeah. Excellent. That's really good advice. And I think one-on-one, it's maybe a little easier, although there are a lot of challenges with that active listening. But in a team collaboration environment, if you're all sitting around a boardroom table or a conference table and discussing, any tips on how to make that more effective?
Well, Bridget named one earlier that's really important. So it's setting ground rules for the team.
Yes.
And it's saying up front, we're not going to have side conversations. I mean, getting the group to identify what gets in the way of collaboration. They'll come up with these ideas, but
Good idea.
side conversations are dangerous. You're always wondering, what are they talking about? And they hate my idea. Or another one is that phones off.
Nice.
Or on vibrate, and you only check them. I know we're in healthcare, so you only check them if it's some sort of an emergency of some sort, or have somebody else take care of it for you. So there's lots of ways to do that, but it's important to get the group to come up with those ideas and agree that they're important. Write them down.
Yeah. Good point.
Well, and usually sometimes you see that behavior because people are bored in a meeting. Set really important and effective agendas. Make sure that the time is really valued to the team as well. And you don't just waste people's time by hearing somebody just go on and on and on. I mean, time management is critical there. Again, rules of engagement are so important. But really make those conversations really something worthwhile. Make those meetings worthwhile to come to, right? Don't let boredom set in. And it does. You can watch it in a room. It's just a killer.
Yeah, it really is. You got to read the cues.
Yeah, we spend a lot of wasted time in meetings. And my favorite is when you ask somebody, so do you know why you're here, what this meeting's about? And they go, no, I have no idea. Like, wow, you should come to the meeting prepared and understand we're here to do something. Yeah. And if we're not, then you shouldn't be there. So agendas, put your key questions on the agenda. Say, this is what we're going to discuss. Here's the questions we need to brainstorm around. And here's our time frame. I mean, add up the money in the room. How many people are there? What's their salary? How many hours are we here? Was it worth it? And if it wasn't, shouldn't be doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Is there a tactful way to say, why am I here?
Wow. Most people won't take the risk to ask the question. That's a good question.
Let me circle back to psychological
Is there a tactful
safety.
way? I'm not sure. I think you could just say, so what is this all about? And what do you think I can contribute to this? You don't hear people ask that very often.
You
It's
don't.
usually
No.
after the meeting.
Yeah.
Or in the hallway. Like,
With
what
each other.
a waste.
And then they
Yeah.
come back for the next one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But then there's sometimes where people invite themselves or mandate that they be invited because they're afraid, it's a little bit of that FOMO, right? They're so afraid they're going to miss out on something important that's said. And really, time is valuable. And when you're collaborating, if you're in a true collaboration setting, the value of you being there is really important. You have a role. If the meeting is not intended for that, why are you wasting your time, right?
Good point. Now, we're going to go back to silence. I jokingly said earlier that silence is not golden, but there are some times when, when you mention how we're uncomfortable with silence. I think as a culture, think of the worst blind date you were ever on and there was no conversation. Everybody gets really nervous. The meter goes up and it's just not comfortable at all. But when we're paying attention to the silence, is it helpful in some way? Can we work with it? Be attentive?
Well, the getting comfortable is literally getting comfortable with waiting for the other person to formulate a response or to share. So I think getting comfortable with it just takes some practice, but it involves you could prompt someone if they are not responding, but you're not going to move on until you hear what they have to say. So if they're taking a while, you could say, no, I'm really interested in what you have to say. So I'm just going to sit back and wait for it. But we usually just prattle on and fill the void and never get to the important stuff.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. And I think it's good to use your mentor to help you with that. If you are struggling with that, just say, hey, can we do some role playing here and help me figure out how to do that better so that I'm not so awkward or that I don't just keep on blathering on. So that can be very helpful.
Yeah, don't ever feel silly doing role play. That's so valuable. And this requires patience as well, right?
It does, and it requires getting a bit more comfortable in your own skin, because when we're filling in those gaps, we're usually kind of nervous, and some of us are more socially awkward than others, and so it's telling yourself it's okay, and I think it's great to explain to the other person that I'm going to pursue this with you because I really want to know what you're thinking about this, and you have good ideas, and it feels like you don't always get to share them. I really want to hear them. And it's so respectful as well.
Yeah.
And then listen.
So empowering.
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. All right. Well, we have talked today about a few really important things. We've talked about psychological safety, which is, again, empowering. There's a lot to be said for that, to have the bravery and safety to speak up and share your opinions. We've talked about listening and how important listening is in that whole process of collaboration, and being attentive to silence, finding the patience and the empathy and valuing other people in that space of silence that we're not usually comfortable with. So that is episode 1 of our series on collaboration. We will have a second episode coming up with both Bridget and Kathy as we continue the discussion. Thank you so much for listening. This is Leanna McGuire for Elite Learning by Colibri Healthcare.
This podcast featured content from an accredited CE activity provided by Colibri Healthcare. Visit elitelearning.com/podcasts for accreditation and disclosure statements and instructions on how you may be able to earn CE credits. Take your learning to the next level by subscribing to more podcasts on compelling healthcare topics.